Welcome to The Shift, where I talk to exceptional leaders and founders from government to Fortune 500 to purposeful startups so that you can sharpen or maybe shortcut your leadership journey. Today, I'm joined by Dan Maudhub, founder and CEO of Wonderful Group, strategist, father, and someone I've loved collaborating with, equipping entrepreneurs with leadership tools. This is Dan at his most honest on how he's learnt the hard way, raising teenagers, building companies, and balancing ambition with working to put relationships at the core. We're also discussing today the personality of a pioneer, how values build culture, and a powerful moment with his son that completely reframed his approach to leading. Settle in, this one's Rich. Good morning.
Good morning, Rach.
Dan, tell us what your defining leadership moment was. Just pick one for us today.
Yeah, that's a great question. And as you said, there's many. But I think one of the more recent ones that happened a few years ago, I was at a festival called Wildfires with the family. And one morning I dropped my youngest off. And being an entrepreneur who doesn't switch off all the time, I had to make a quick phone call. So I dropped him at the kids' tent, registered him, made a phone call, and I walked back past the tent. And I could hear Joel speaking. I'm outside the tent, he's inside. And I don't know what the question was that he was answering, but the answer was, my dad's my biggest influence in my life. He's my hero. And that's all I heard. And I had this kind of like wow moment. I'm standing in a field outside a tent, hearing my 8 or 9-year-old say those words and realizing the influence of my leadership on my children. And it made me reflect on my leadership in so many ways and actually adopt and change a lot of my leadership style based on who Joel is and what he needs from me and sort of my perceptions of my influence in his life. That was like a bit of a wow moment for me.
And isn't it true that often people don't hear about the impact that they've made on their children's lives until the point at which they're giving their wedding speech? And they're like, oh my gosh, that's the first time you've ever told me that.
Yeah.
So what has that changed for you since that defining moment in the tent overhearing Joel say you were his biggest influence?
I think one of the things I realized is that all children are very different in the way that they respond, in the way that who they are, the way they think. And I think that therefore leading children is one of the hardest areas of my own leadership because my oldest is very different to my youngest. My youngest is neurodivergent. Growing up, he was very active and bouncing everywhere and quite hard to put in a box, where my oldest, if I said, do A, he'd do A. If I say to Joel to do A, he'd do B and C and D, and then he might get back to A later, or A's optional. So I think I just had to realize that my leadership style, my communication, my level of empathy, my level of understanding needed to really change in order to develop him in the way that he needs to be developed. So it changed a lot about my parenting. It changed a lot about just my communication, my language, so with my oldest, I can be a little bit more direct. I think I changed a lot actually from that. I had a lot of reflection time as well to kind of go, okay, what do I need to do to lead him better?
I think it's often the people right in front of us who we need to calibrate that support and challenge for, and it comes in different shapes and sizes.
It's very easy for a leader to lead publicly, but it's how they lead privately, I really believe, is the key to leadership. It's one thing to put something on a podcast like this, but it's another thing to actually apply at home, where I think it's the hardest. Being really honest, we're married for 20 years now. I think it's one of the hardest forms of leadership is leading yourself and leading your family, because that's where the biggest challenges come, the biggest niggles come, the biggest kind of potential for disruption and arguments come.
I was going to say exactly the same thing. If you can't lead under the umbrella of your own home, then it's much more challenging to lead elsewhere, particularly as we don't necessarily show those in our home our best selves, but we save our best selves for what we call the outer circles, don't we? The team, the organisation, the community, and the family and self get what's left.
Exactly.
But when we flip that and we lead from the centre point of the compass, then it's much more authentic and feels more comfortable as well, doesn't it? Just thinking about what you said about Joel and how he was talking about you being a great influence in his life. I love to ask a question, and maybe I'll ask it to you for both your children. Looking back, when all is said and done, at the end of your life, what is it that you'd love them to most, both of them, to say about you? What
It's
kind of
good.
a relationship would you like for them to have said that you had with them?
I think a great leader empowers others to be a great leader and enables others to be a great leader. So I would love for the boys, and anyone I could lead to go, he helped me to be who I am, who I'm meant to be. And that's not necessarily leadership by position, but it's leadership by influence. So help me to understand my identity, to understand my capacity, to understand how I communicate, all of those sort of practical things around leadership. And I try and do that. And actually, it's interesting because that does sometimes rub people up the wrong way because they feel like you're kind of not pressuring them, but you're asking them to do something they're not comfortable with, or you're asking them to sort of step out of a comfort zone. And so with my oldest now, for example, like he's captain in the rugby team that we coach, and so I'm sort of encouraging him in that area, how to talk to the ref, how to communicate with his team, what happens when people don't listen, what happens when he doesn't have a great game. I'd hope they'd say my dad helped to empower me to be who I am. I'd hope.
That's
Whether I
great.
get that right or wrong would test the time, shall say.
Yeah, you can't ask for more than that from a dad. Who has influenced you along your leadership journey?
So I think there's two types of influences I kind of see in my life. One is people that have helped me to help me to grow within myself and to move forward in my own leadership. And others that are people who help me to go. So people that have helped me to get the work done, to help me to move forward. I think those that have helped me to go is firstly, I would say my wife, because being at home, if a family life is in order, it's so much easier to go and make things happen. It's so much easier to get on with work and growing businesses and helping others and all the stuff that we do practically. Helping me to grow. I remember one of my earliest leaders, it was actually in a uh, church context. I was about 24, 25, and I just started going to a church. The leader is very empowering. Like, go and do it. Go and give it a go. Give it a go. Doesn't matter if it doesn't work. As long as you're helping people, go and do it. So I really learned quite early on to fail fast. I learned to give things a go, to not be scared of stepping out of the boat because the fear of stepping out the boat became much less than the fear of sitting in the boat. But I was 24, 25. I was naive, in one sense, but another sense I had to go. And so I learned how to generate results quite early on. And I think that was a really empowering moment. If I do that, I might not get where I think I want to get to, but I'm going to get halfway there, which is halfway further than I would have been if I sat in the boat and did nothing. So I think he was a very, really good influence in my life and helping me to grow and helping me to go.
So
And that
that fail fast mentality, what would he do to help you when you did fail?
I think realizing that, it's about putting context on failure. So I think there's two types of failures, hard failure and soft failure, right? So hard failure is, okay, well, the business is going to close down. That the business no longer exists. A soft failure is, well, maybe we didn't hit our targets. We didn't quite get to where we want to get to, and we call that failure. But if you hit a target and it's 100% and you call it, but you get to 80, 90%, you're 80, 90% towards your goal. It's about reframing what failure is. So I think I learned to frame failure. I think I learned to also frame success. So when you're dealing with people's lives, you might not get the numbers you want, or you might not get the kind of growth metrics that you've set, but actually you've helped others, you've empowered others. Sometimes it's hard to see that in the moment. You see that in hindsight. Someone who's entrepreneurial, success to me can be very metrics driven. It's numbers driven. It's performance driven. It's outcome driven. That's the natural way my mind works. But I think quite early on, I've learned to sort of frame success as like, well, didn't quite hit that, but we had a flipping good go. We helped people along the way and we still made some money. The fail fast thing is not just about being reckless for me. It was about give it a go. And if it's not working, I used to have this phrase, don't make it a holy cow. Don't make it something that you can't touch, that you can't change it. Should I stay doing something for years and years and years and it's just not working? Just don't do it. Make a change. Don't stay into it for years. After 6 months to 12 months, if you can't validate that product or validate that venture, either you need to change it or you need to do something else. There's got to be a reason why after 12 months it's not working.
Yeah, yeah.
Does that make sense?
You've got to experiment, haven't you, and be curious and be
Yeah,
prepared to put the book down if you're not enjoying it after the first two chapters. That's something I didn't learn till later in life. I used to finish books even if I didn't like them and get through. But someone said to me, just put the book down, get a new one. Huh,
right.
who knew?
So simple.
Did he teach you much about emotional intelligence and relating to others? Because there's a tendency when you're kind of going towards something, failing fast, that there's a trail behind you, particularly when you're young, the age you described. Did he teach you much about relating to others?
That is a great question, and that has been probably one of my biggest growth points in my life. So the short answer to that is not really, because when you're in a pioneering environment and you've got a pioneer helping you to pioneer, and so my two key strengths are pioneer advisor, I think there was always a desire to want to bring people with you and to help people and hey, let's go on a journey together, let's get on the boat together. But when you're running at a pace, you look around and realize that, some of the people are drowning whilst you're swimming, towards the vision really quickly. And so I think it took me several years to realize a couple of things. One, this is going to sound really, really silly. It took me a long time, too long, to realize that not everyone thinks the way that I think. Now, that sounds really, really basic, like leadership 101. But when you communicate a vision or you communicate a plan, you go, hey, guys and girls, we're going to go this way. What do you think? I think I've asked them, I've got the buy-in. Everyone's like, yeah, it's good. So, well, yeah, well, everyone thinks the way that I do. And then you look back and go, oh wow, they're a bit overworked here, or they're a bit stressed, or they want the detail, and I'm like out there in the bigger picture, and they want to know what we're going to do next week, and I'm planning next year. It took me a while to realize that that can have quite a practical impact on people's lives. So I think in my early years of business and entrepreneurship and leadership, I probably wasn't the best at building a team according to their strengths. I tried to build teams according to what I thought they needed and what I thought was the best way forward. Took me too long to work that out.
Yeah, very true. I mean, you and I have had conversations about how unique you're wired, haven't we? In terms
Yes.
of being able to envisage something and want to gallop towards it. But just by means of introduction, weaved in halfway through. The big question now is like, how are you balancing it all, Dan? You're a founder and CEO of the Wonderful Group, and the Wonderful Group are on a mission to empower entrepreneurs, global brands, community leaders, and other leaders to really make a difference. You're a father to two teenage boys, most importantly, husband to Claire, who you gave a shout out to earlier and recognised her contribution in your leadership. You're also very involved locally in Maidstone, coach rugby, and many things that I probably left out. How are you balancing it all? Can you drop some knowledge for us, Dan?
I think, firstly, I've learned the hard way, and I've learned through burnouts and through my own struggles that firstly, I have to balance it all. So longevity in leadership, I really is not how should I, could I, would I? It's I have to. I have to for my own mental and physical health. I have to for my own relationship with my family. I have to for my own sanity. How have I had to work through it all? So firstly, look at those leadership circles is how am I leading myself on a daily basis? So working from home, most lunchtimes I will get up and I'll go for an hour walk. There's a beautiful woodland trust just up the road. Must look like a crazy man who's walking around there every day without a dog. I'm like the only guy there without a dog. And so actually today I'm going for a walk with a friend. So that's my physical exercise, it's my mental relief, it's my thinking time. I switch my laptop off at 6 to whatever, 6:30, and I have that time with the kids before dinner. So basically I compartmentalize my time. I'm relatively disciplined with my time. So I can tell you almost to the hour what I do each day and each week. And that might sound a little bit rigid, particularly for someone that's quite creative. But if I don't do that, I will burn out very quickly. Secondly, well, what does balance mean between productivity and reflection? So I think just balancing my day, my week, my month, and my quarter. Beginning of the year, I spend a night away just reflecting and preparing for the year. Then I review that per each quarter. Um, Try and get away twice a year. So I put rhythms, a lot of rhythms in place for daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly. Sounds a little bit regimented, but a year in my mind isn't a continuum of a year. It's broken down into those reflection points.
In a sense, it doesn't really matter how it sounds. It's the fruit of that. Like,
Yeah.
what difference does it actually make? So tell me, Dan, when you don't do these things that you just described, what happens? What unravels? You must have tried it.
Oh, too often. I think being really honest with you, the first thing that unravels is my own well-being, my own health. You start to have anxious thoughts. You start to, overwork, or you start to kind of do too much, So my propensity is to do too much. Is I see we can do one. Why do one when you can do two? Or if you just did two a little bit quicker, then you could get two done, and then you can do four because in your brain you're thinking of four. So I'm learning to slow down and it's always the second thought, not the first thought. So the first thought is, yeah, why don't we multiply this? Why don't we double this out? Or we could do this event somewhere else. I'm like, no, no, no. Slow down. What's the second thought? The second thought is we need to capacity plan, we need to resource plan, so on and so forth. So I think it's being deliberately slowing myself down so that I'm working according to my second thoughts and not just my first thoughts.
What has sports like rugby, because I know you and I have that in common, what has sports like rugby taught you about leadership?
That's a great question. I've got a particular context. I lead my oldest son's team. So I'm his coach and I'm his dad, and then his friend, a lot of his friends are on the same team as well. So have this kind of nuanced relationship with the rugby team and my son in the middle of it. One of the things I've hugely appreciated about the role that sport can play, or in this particular case rugby, is the values piece. So the four values in rugby: teamwork, respect, enjoyment, discipline, and sportsmanship, I think is the S. Treds, Treds. And I think it gives us it was given me as a leader a really clear framework. So, okay, respect on the pitch, what does that look like? Respect to your coaches, what does that look like? Teamwork. Okay, so last Sunday, the teamwork in the team wasn't great. So we can come back to the values and say, well, why didn't that work? So I think that rugby's really taught me to how you can lead through values and make those values into practical behaviors that then drives a culture within a team.
I love that. The fact that rather than berate the team, you actually took an opportunity to look back at the values and say, like, where did we go wrong? Which one have we not been adhering to? That's great. There's no I in rugby, is there?
Yeah, exactly that. But it's very easy to kind of yeah, it takes a long time to build in that kind of culture. So particularly as they get older, so the boys are now in their mid-teens, so they're all a bit bigger, they've all got a little bit more mouth about them. And so it's easy just to go, well, that was rubbish, or you were rubbish, why didn't you pass? So I think values have really helped to sort of lead and drive a culture within that context.
So I just want to think for a minute. I mean, you and I have been collaborating on a leadership program for entrepreneurs, and one of the topics that we dive into is emotional intelligence. But I wonder what you think of this quote that I read last night from John Mark Comer's Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, everyone's best read over lockdown. I'm just reading it for the fourth time. So,
Oh
when
yeah.
our innate human restlessness collides with the digital age, the result is a culture-wide crisis of emotional unhealth. When our innate human restlessness collides with the digital age, the result is a culture-wide crisis of emotional unhealth. What do you make of that? Because you're working a lot with global brands using tech-enabled solutions.
Yeah, I mean that's a huge challenging question for me because professionally most of the work that we do is in a digital environment, whether that's building digital assets, whether that's website development, product design, campaigns. So we live in a virtual world at work. But actually, there's the humanity of empowering people within that world. And then you've got the personal side, going back to the kids piece, got two teenage boys that the phone and social media is a big part of their lives. So I think, where do we take this question?
What's behind it? It's kind of what's the hope for us in this digital age times emotional unhealth that's a bit of a pandemic now? Where's the hope?
I think the hope is that we see what reality is. We look at it in the context of working from home versus hybrid versus in the office, and now there's a potential swing back. So in the agency world, there's quite a bit of a swing back to maybe 4 days in the office. Some agencies are calling their staff back 5 days. You're in the office because we're better together. So the hope is how do we live where human connection and human relationship is still the core of what we do? And then the second part of that is then how do we deliver that? So in our context, We know that it's good for people to be together for creativity and brainstorming and just the water cooler chat. So we have a day a week in London. We also know that a lot of our best deep work gets done when we were remote. So we plan our schedule so that we've got 2, 3 days of deep work production. Then we'll have a day a week together, and then we'll have another day a week with a lot of online meetings. So we try and reform our week so that the power of human relationships is at the core of it, realizing that most of the time we're virtual. I think the hope is that we realize that technology and social media is not reality. Reality is human interaction. But the caveat to that is a lot of that will be over digital and social channels in the world that we live in. We can't deny it.
And what can we do maybe as parents of teenage boys, as you and I both are, what can we be doing in terms of practical steps that will help us to balance all the best of social media, digital, but also maintain human connection, not completely lose it?
Yeah, we've had going back to what I was saying a minute ago about the power of human connection. Even WhatsApp, a couple of years ago, Dad, we all need to be on WhatsApp. I said, why? You've got messages. Like that's the same thing, a message on WhatsApp. Yeah, but none of the kids use messages anymore. So it's reason at every point, it's about reasoning through the why. So, well, why do you need to communicate over WhatsApp when you can communicate over messages? Because everyone's on WhatsApp. Okay. Then the evolution of that is everyone's on Snapchat. We don't use WhatsApp anymore. That's so uncool. We're on Snapchat. So each part of those stages, I'm saying, well, what's the boundaries? Because everything has a good boundary around it. How are you going to communicate with your friends? TikTok now. Okay, we can choose one. Snapchat or TikTok? Okay, TikTok. Okay, and how long should you be on TikTok for a day? Well, a couple of hours? No, an hour max. Okay. So it's about guiding them through that journey to not be restrictive, but to have very clear boundaries. So basically, our kids have got like, I might sound a bit draconian now in the podcast, but our kids have like, they're allowed a social media app for a specific time of day. Their apps all switch off after 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. They
Yeah.
can't access any of the apps. So it's just about building that, but also replacing it with other things. So, hey, boys, how about you have some time to read now, which goes down well? And how about we play a game? So at the weekend, we might play a game, a family game. So it's not about just restricting it and giving them nothing. It's about replacing it with something that's positive, which again is rooted in real life.
Have you guys tried Monopoly Deal?
Monopoly deal? No.
Okay, I'm going to send it to you. It's actually probably more addictive than TikTok.
Wow, you heard it here first.
Right, it ticks the competitive box, and it's only 15 minutes. So yeah, we play it when
Monopoly
they get
deal,
home from
that
school.
sounds amazing.
Great. I mean, that was really practical in terms of what you just shared. How about some quick fire questions as we land?
Let's go.
I haven't really prepped you on this, have we? So this is going to be
No.
totally off the cuff. First question is rugby or football? Round or oval?
Oh, that's a humdinger of a question. Oh, I've been an Arsenal fan my whole life. It's nothing better than watching Arsenal win a match. But then, obviously, I've played a lot of rugby. I coach rugby. You can't make me choose, Rach. Okay,
Forwards or backwards?
let me to watch or to play
To play.
rugby.
Yeah, nice choice. Okay, we can still be friends. Curry night out with friends or cozy night in?
So, if I want to recharge, a curry night out with friends is a good thing. Yeah, having some fun with some of my mates is always.
So this is one that my husband suggested. He said you can tell a lot about a person from this one. Train or fly?
Yeah.
Because
Why?
it's quicker. It gets you from
Yeah.
A to B in very little time.
Yeah, you can get further, quicker, faster, food's better.
The
Trains in
view's
this
better from a
country are
train.
awful. Pardon?
The view's more varied from a train, I'd argue.
Trains in this country generally aren't great though, are they?
We do live in the UK. Okay, and the last question, it's really hard, but dig deep. One meal that you could eat for the rest of your life, every single day. What does it look
Gosh.
like?
Maybe a roast lamb with all the trimmings, the roast potatoes, the mint sauce, just lots of perfect gravy and lots of nice vegetables. So I do actually enjoy vegetables.
That
I'd
sounds
choose lamb over
incredible.
beef.
I
This
think
is
I'm changing my answer now to that.
It is, no, I can taste it. I've chosen lamb over beef. That's interesting.
I ordered lamb a couple of weeks ago, but unfortunately I pressed the every single week rather than the once off button, and my kids have been loving it. They're like, don't change it.
So have you got a lot of lamb in the house then with your
No, they
orders?
eat it every week.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. Dan,
Brilliant.
it's been such a pleasure. Really enjoyed having you on the podcast. Thanks for your time, and I'm going to get Monopoly Deal in the post to you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
I loved in my chat with Dan how he reframed failure, distinguishing a line between hard and soft failure and how that changed his mindset. I appreciated his honesty about how long it took him to realize that not everyone thinks like he does and the growth that came from that. And as a former Rugby Sevens player, I loved his reflections on how sport can teach us how to grow culture through values, not just performing. If you enjoyed this episode, why not share it with someone else who's navigating ambition and family? Please don't forget to follow or subscribe so you don't miss future episodes, and check out the show notes. Thanks for joining.